Moving to university, it's a massive life event, it's a massive change, meeting new people, figuring out where you fit, as well as negotiating obviously new tasks within the course of study and embracing the subject area. So it's all unique stresses, they're all very, very new at a time in our life where there's so much expectation on most of our students, whether they're mature or whether they're 18, 19, the stresses are the same. I do believe that we need to do more to reduce the stigma and the taboo around mental health issues. Yes, 1 in 4 will come forward and say they have a mental health issue, but I'd argue that every human being on this planet has an element of mental health, and at any one point it can deteriorate. So it's about recognising our early warning signs, living mentally well, with the view that we can actually become more emotionally resilient. We need to actually consider what we can do for our students to help them with that transition along their journey, as well as their exit strategy. We have our students here for a minimum of 3 years, and I find that very often the 3rd year is crunch time. You're exhausted, you've come too far to quit, but you don't feel quite ready to finish, and then there's the big world that awaits, and very often we don't know what awaits us after that. So it's just as important, I believe, at the exit strategy of university life as well as the transition in. I think that universities need to widen their gaze and see themselves as part of a community, and that's something that our university prides itself upon anyway. And it's about having a signposting role within universities to be able to actually sit with the student, listen to their story, listen to their distress, and come up with a co-created wellbeing plan that's unique for them and one that they're going to invest in and feel happy going along with, not something that we prescribe for them. That's the difference. Do not want to aim to have a threshold orientated approach whereby you have to have a mental illness, for example, to be in receipt of any support. So for example, we have a counselling service that is an open door strategy whereby you can go in, refer yourself and talk about those problems that are driving your mental health at that point. It does not depend on a diagnosis, for example. Similarly with the chaplaincy, they will be equipped to respond to students in distress also. It's about our environment that's disabling very often, not necessarily the person with the illness or the distress. We've aimed to actually address mental wellbeing and particularly suicide and self-harm mitigation. We've quite deliberately, strategically picked suicide and self-harm because they're a bigger taboo than mental health and mental illness. And if we equip staff with the ability and the confidence to feel that they can save a life from suicide or offer comfort to somebody who's engaging in self-harming behaviour, I'd argue that anything else then is easy. We're reducing that taboo without telling people off. When we talk about suicide and self-harm, many people don't come forward because they view that they will then be labelled with a mental health diagnosis that they do not want. They fear their job, they fear their family, they fear the stigma that is associated with that. And I'd argue that suicide isn't killing people in the UK or the world, it's stigma. It's stigma that's preventing them from coming forward, speaking up about their distress and getting help early and seeking that support early on. Suicide is a symptom of distress, not illness. Any one of us can experience these thoughts. And I think if we're honest, most of us at some point in our life will consider, I can't go on anymore, but we're always glad of tomorrow. Consider your safety planning now. Before you're in that distress, who will you call? Who will you ring? Who will you reach out to? What can you do to distance yourself from that distress until it passes? Because it will pass, and you will feel better about it tomorrow. It always does get better, and you need to hold on to that hope. Hope saves people. More than medical intervention, more than anything else, just having hope that it will improve, it will get better. And what I love about this environment is that every one of our students who have walked through the door have hope because they have achieved something by getting here. Our students have good social capital. They have something that I can actually use to help them to be able to get through and see that light. And I'm proud of every one of them, every one of them.